Sure. So let's get into it. It's
Okay,
great to meet you. Thank
you
you so
too.
much for taking a minute out today. I appreciate it.
Sure.
So let's begin our journey with this. I always start with this question. And 6 years ago, this pandemic changed so much about all of us. It was a fork in the road, changed the world. How did you get through that COVID era? And how has it changed the way that you write and live and do your things today?
Oh my gosh, it really impacted me in a big way. At the time, I was a youth minister, believe it or not. And just having to go to work and sit with young people, that were trying to figure out who the heck they were anyway and explain why this happened. How did this, how could this happen? They were afraid, they were curious, they were angry, all of the things. And now what's going to happen to us? And of course, I didn't have the answers. And so I was impacted too. And so I guess it changed a lot of things because I realized how insecure we all are, not no matter what our age is, and how we're just trying to figure out who the heck we are. How do we fit into this world? How do we fit into society? So it opened up a whole bunch of questions, and I got really, really curious. And the more I discussed it with people, parents, kids, the more I realized, wow, people just need to be grounded. They need to give space to share their feelings. They need to be given a voice. And that's how it impacted me. It created a whole new uh, passion for me to help people, to educate them, to just share, just to be a community, I guess, and reopen their eyes on how important belonging is.
I'm finding myself thinking and trying to mentally go back to before the pandemic because we've changed so much.
Yeah.
I think we thought for a while if we get out of this pandemic, everything will slow down and there will be a little peace. But it
Mm.
almost seems like it's even more amped than it was before with everything going on between war and immigration things and all of these things that just seem like what we watched happen in Europe
Mm.
during their pre-revolution and their kind of awakening. It feels like we genuinely are the teenager, politically speaking, on the proverbial world block, and we're going through growing pains.
Well, yeah, and just the hatred, we were
Yep.
talking about that a little bit before you push record, I think people are reclusing a lot more. They're not as out there with other people learning. And again, with young people, and for me, I mean, growing up, that's how I learned is by being out in the world
Yep.
and watching other people. But now we're just watching everyone online, and who are they really? Is that the real person?
Yeah.
It gives us a false sense of security and safety, and that you know affects the brain in a big way.
But I think that, being a podcaster yourself, this has been a wonderful therapeutic world to walk into
Mm,
and to see humans and to have a civil discourse and to exchange ideas and to extol the virtues of what we're doing, to hold
yeah.
each other up because the headlines are so stark and negative and they always really have been. Like local news has never, like, I don't know when I swore it off, but I can't even listen to it going through the room. It's really really bad. So I find that having this latitude to have this podcasting world that we're in is such a good way to really have a better portal into who we are. And I think we're all much more alike than we think we are.
Yes, and interviewing hundreds of people, from neuroscientists, to an author that has written only one book, like me, but talking to all of them, hearing them share their messages and their platforms, but just their who they really are underneath and what brought them to that place. Uh, it gives me hope in humanity again.
Yeah.
And plus I'm learning so much. And again, I just can't say it enough. People need to stay curious and keep learning and keep growing.
The wonder for sure. It's interesting, coming from jazz radio and interviewing a lot of different people, the real experienced musician that's been all over the world, or the real nomadic soul that doesn't have borders, they always come down to one overriding principle. human beings are so much more alike. At our base level, we're all really kind of in the same boat.
Yeah. Yeah. And we all have had different pasts. And, you know, I'm sure we'll talk about my platform, Delay the Binge, but that was created just because everyone has such a unique life and issues. And, you know, maybe it's not as traumatic as this person, you know, but you still have stuff that you've been I literally brainwashed with since you were a child. Like as a woman, you know, when I was very young, I was told what my place would be as a
Yeah.
woman,
Yeah.
you know, and that we are the weaker sex and that blah, 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 blah. But, you know, I had to undo all of that by watching and learning because I didn't even know who I was. I
Right.
think a lot of us don't have any sense of identity. We're just going based off expectations.
But what the interesting diametrically opposed things that are going on in the world of women today is that I see like the WNBA, and like in Kansas City we have like we built the first women's soccer stadium in the country and the world. Brittany Mahomes was a big part of that. And I see that there's levels of like we have a professional softball team. There's levels of sport that are completely eroding those gender lines. But
Hmm.
politically speaking, these politicians have rescinded so many rights. And I'm not talking about just abortion. I'm talking about healthcare access in
Yeah.
impoverished and poverty riddled areas. It's abhorrent that there's been this. So there's this weird, like you said, expectations. And you would have figured that notion of, um, you know, Steinem and all of these thinkers that wanted us to be in a better place would continue to evolve over time. But we've had this rescinding nature of things.
Yes, and it is constantly evolving, right? The whole message just with the whole gender thing. But like I said, we're all so different in how we grew up and what patterns were permanently, you know, ingrained in our brains.
Yeah,
You know, and that creates behaviors that are very hard to get rid of because the brain likes patterns.
yeah,
And so once it sees that, oh, this is what I know, this is what I remember, you bring that all the way into no matter what we learn. And that's the whole point of my platform is that we know what serves us and what doesn't, but we still do it. Even if we know it's not good for us, no matter what it is, overworking, overpleasing, food, alcohol, drugs, whatever it is, we know it's not serving us, but we still do it
yeah,
every day. We intend to not do it anymore, but we do.
yeah.
And I just became very obsessed with learning, you know, trying to figure out why do we do that? Why do I do that?
Yes. So let's start peeling back the layers of your platform, Delay the Binge,
Okay.
your world of writing and all the good work you're doing. I'm going to put you in front of 12-year-olds. You're at career day, and one of the kids wants you to explain what you do for a living. How do you synthesize all of the titles to make sense to their brains?
I would simplify it. I would just say, I help people become aware of the patterns that have been quietly shaping your life so you can choose on purpose who you become next. That's what I
Speaking
would
of,
tell a 12-year-old.
yeah, for sure. So speaking of, what did you want to be when you were that age? When you were 12, what was your dream job?
I mean, to be honest with you, Joe, I was busy trying to survive. I
Yeah.
came from a very abusive childhood, I mean, literally physically beaten probably every day just for looking the wrong way. And so at 12, I had no dreams, I had no goals. But there was a time when I, you know, took myself out of that environment too early at 15. I ran away. Um, but then I began to figure out who I was by watching other people and by the people that helped me. I mean, there's probably only about two or three people that saw me and they took just literally seconds to impact me for the rest of my life, you know, by seeing me and by being kind. The first time it happened to me, I didn't even know what it was. I didn't know to call it kindness. I couldn't understand why they were helping me.
Wow.
But all I knew is I wanted to be like that. I wanted to be like that person. And so to this, And that's the strong foundation of what I do. I just want to make an impact. I want to help people be better because they sometimes they just don't know.
Yeah. So how did you turn that corner? You're obviously in a much more evolved state in your life right now, and you've gone through a lot and you're helping others. What
Mhm.
was the corner that you had to go around? Who was the inspiration? What were the key moments that have allowed you to become who you are today?
Life itself, the hard parts, the painful parts. Uh, I figured out early in eighth grade how to use pain for purpose, how to use it like fuel because it's happening. You can't change it. It happens, and it's there forever. Whatever happened to you, and comments. I just figured it out. I can tell you like a quick story about how I figured it out
Sure.
as a child, as an eighth grader.
Yeah, yeah, please do.
So in gym class, we were taught. I mean, we were told to run the time mile like every few months. The coaches would say, "Okay, girls, we're going to do the time mile today." And the rule was, Joe, if you stopped, you had to start over. You couldn't walk the 4 laps around. And I hated it because I was malnourished, didn't have food, and I was physically hurt all the time. So I was weak and I wasn't strong. And so I hated it so much because the whole class had to wait on me the whole period. And so this one day, the coaches said, "Okay, girls, we're going to do the time mile 4 times around the track." I was so angry about it. So I said, "You know what? I'm just going to do a slow trot." And a slow, I mean, walking would be faster. So I just started a slow trot. And like the second lap, my lungs couldn't get air and my legs were burning on fire. But then I started thinking about the unfairness of my life because I had learned the other girls had a mom and a dad and a beautiful home and people that cared for them and loved them. And started crying, getting angry, more and more angry, not realizing that I was running faster. I was in a full on sprint, man, on that fourth lap. Man, I fell down on the ground. Coaches were in awe, and I finished before everybody else. But I lay there thinking, what was that?
Yeah.
Where did that come from? That energy, that resource. Why haven't I seen this before? But it had been there all along. And so finally, I had to name things. I called it the plus one.
Yeah.
And from then on out, the way I would tap into that resource is by saying, okay, I need to plus one it. The situation that I'm in, I need to plus one it. And it saved my life, literally.
Wow.
And I started, when I became an adult, I was still plus one in it and everything that I was doing. And I have 2 children that are now adults, but I raised them on the plus one theory. They wrote their college essays on that. It's how much it affected them. As a youth minister, I taught every single youth how to apply that in their lives. And to this day on social media, they'll say, "Hey, Miss Pam, still plus one in it, you know?
Cool.
And so I started a podcast called The Plus One Theory, and it was just about how to do your best plus one more when it comes to kindness. But we have evolved. I've rebranded into Delay the Binge, but the plus one is always going to be part of that platform, part of that message. And, the people that my heroes are the 2 people that saw me when I was growing up. I wasn't just this filthy, hungry rugrat, stealing their food. I
Yeah.
stole food a lot,
Yeah.
from a convenience store. It was called Mac's Superstop. And Mac, that's my hero, Mac, because my sister and I would go in and steal hot dogs. I'd get the weenies put under my shirt. She'd get the buns put under her shirt. We'd walk out. We did that so many times. And then one day Mac said, "Hey, you two, stop." We thought, oh no, we're going to jail. We turn around. He's holding a bottle of mustard, Joe. And he said, "Y'all been taking my hot dogs for weeks. Because don't y'all want some mustard with those hot dogs?"
Wow.
And we're like, "Yes, sir." He goes, "Don't steal from me, girls." He goes, "If you need food, all you got to do is ask me."
Wow.
So as I was leaving, like I said, I didn't know what that was. I'd never received kindness before. And so all I knew is I wanted to be like Mac.
Yeah,
And to this day, I try to be like Mac, you
that's
know?
wonderful. You know, that plus one principle, I think I've lived with it for a long time and I wouldn't have put it in that terms. My best friend when I was 16, he was 17, he passed. He always had health issues growing up and he used to put an IV in and I remember running into his mom a few years later. I worked at a grocery store and I said, I'm gonna live extra hard so that he gets to experience this. And that's a part of it. And I didn't that wasn't the term, but that's always been my thing. I'm going to
Yeah.
charge a little harder because he's just not going to be able to experience all of this, and I think that's as bad as it is to experience death at that early age. I think it's also can be a gift to understand the temporal reality of this life because it is fleeting and it can be here and it can be gone real quick. Not only in terms of just death, but just in other things. We look at it in seasons. We look at it in animals. We see it all around us all the time in very
Hmm.
small ways. So,
And it's those small, steps. That's the plus one theory as well. It's just small, intentional steps to make an improvement in whatever area you need improving or where you're struggling and finish stronger than you started, just
absolutely.
like the try. So, yeah, I live by that. And I feel, I mean, self worth was a huge issue for me because of the way I grew up. And that is how I feel most worthy is when I live my life the way I am telling others they will find um, intention or it'll make a difference in your life if you help others.
For
I mean,
sure.
we're built that way.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why it feels bad when we lie or when we do something if we feel bad about it,
Yeah.
even though we keep doing it. But
Yeah.
then when you help someone, you open the door for a little lady, old lady, or you do something, go out of your way, it feels so good, right?
Mhm.
It's almost healing.
Yeah.
That's
Certainly
the way we're
is.
designed. We're designed to be kind, really.
Yeah. I agree. I totally agree. So, if you could have a dream podcast guest, anybody on the planet, who would you love to interview?
Do they have to be alive?
They could be a ghost. That's fine. We can open it up.
A lot of people would say, depending on your faith, Jesus, but
Yeah.
I would not. I would interview one of the disciples
Yeah.
because, man, how did they keep following him?
Yeah. Right.
And then when he was gone from the earth, they were persecuted, but they stood strong by their faith and their beliefs and their message. So I guess I would want to find out how did they do that? How did they keep going when the world was against them?
Yeah. So, let me ask you this. What is the energy for you every day to do this work that you do? You're helping change lives. You have a soul that you need to take care of. You have a family. The world's a crazy place. How do you retain your energy and hope in this modern world and do it at a high level every day? What motivates you?
My grandchildren.
There you go.
I have twin 11-year-old boys and a little girl that's 6. I mean, I get teary eyed now. They're amazing. They're fabulous. And I love young people. That's why I was in youth ministry. They are the future. And I'm sad that we're ruining their world.
Yeah.
And so every day it's motivating to me. It's inspiring to me, especially when they ask questions that I really can't answer or I don't think they're ready to hear. You can only dumb down an answer for so long. They're
Yeah.
smart. But
Yeah.
yeah, I want their world to be kinder and less violent. Like we talked about, people are loving to hate.
Yeah.
People love to destroy lives
Yeah.
by their actions. They are just angry people. And if they would just look at why the pain, So if I can help people figure out what their pain points are. So with my writing, and oh my gosh, Joe, I never thought I'd be a writer. I'm
Yeah.
a web designer by trade.
Yeah.
But I love writing so much that it's all I want to do. That's why I work. I need to be able to feed the need to write. And I have a pen name. I write as PJ Hamilton,
Yeah.
but my writing style is humor, wit, with a lesson. And people are loving it. I write short stories. I post those every Tuesday. Um, but people really love those. And it makes a difference in their lives to read my stories from my past, from growing up.
Yeah. Well, and you're in development for Delay the Binge, and there's a campaign to get that going. So talk to
Yes.
me a little bit about the book that's in development and how people can help.
Um, just they can help by signing up on my email list, number one, and that's newsletter.delaythebinge.com. And that's where you can find, I mean, I don't know about you, Joe, but I love to take care of people. I like
Yeah.
doing for them. And I do lots for my guests, my podcast guests. And what I do is I pretty much spread their message as far as it'll stretch. And I do that with a newsletter that features their message. And my PJ Hamilton story is always a story connected to the message. So it's a little ecosystem.
Yeah.
So, and then, so you can sign up for author PJ Hamilton, newsletter.authorpjhamilton.com, or for both, the Delay the Binge newsletter. What I'm looking to do is speak on this topic, on this message, the importance of it. I want to speak to the masses about it. That's how the podcast started,
Yeah.
because I started reaching a lot more people. So if I could speak at events, or heck, just a panel or a workshop, any way that I could speak, I'm anxious to do that, to share it. It's this message inside of me that has to get out.
Yes.
So writing and the podcast is how I'm doing it, but it's not monetized.
Yeah.
So I need to be able to support the message. And I can do that if I'm hired as a speaker, or coaching even. I'm willing to do one-on-one. If someone wants to go really deep here, I can definitely help them, you know, figure out their patterns, why they do what they do. I'm definitely not a mental health professional or anything like that, but I have lots of lived experience. I am a trained youth minister, so I have ways of counseling and helping people look at their lives and figure out how they can find themselves and come back to who they were always meant to be.
Yeah.
So, coaching and speaking is how I would support this message, and it would help me get it out. But it starts by the email list. So,
Absolutely.
join that email list, and that's the best way you can support me. And feedback. I love to hear what you thought, good or bad, about the stories and about the message. We also have a Genius Link, which I don't know if you know what that is, but Genius Link is where you put a URL
Yeah.
to say the episode on YouTube, and then you put all the platform links there. So if you just have that one link so that people can access it from whatever platform they want to listen to your podcast episode. So I create a Genius Link for the guest and a beautifully designed thumbnail that they can use in short reels, and then I feature them on my webpage.
Beautiful.
So I love doing it. It's a
Yeah.
lot of work,
Yeah.
but it's done from the heart. I definitely can get passionate about your message, and sharing you. It makes me feel happy and good about myself to do that.
So let's get to the essence of who you are. Everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, clients, readers, listeners, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I am a selfless person, and my children have really been concerned for me in the past before I learned how to control putting others before myself. 8 years of therapy. They say you do it because you want to make sure they stay in your life. You put them before you. You want to make sure they're happy. Even in my work, in corporate jobs that I've had before, I would just pour so much into it, and I would just keep taking whatever they put on my plate. So I would burn out, a lot, because I didn't know how to balance, and I didn't have boundaries. But now I have them, and I still find I feel best about myself when I am helping others see how wonderful they are, because everyone is. And we just have to find it and a way for you to see it. So Pam Dwyer is a person that cares deeply and sees you and hears you.
I love it. So if anybody wants to delve into everything, where's the best place for them to go?
DelayTheBinge.com.
Okay.
Or they can go to PamDwyer.com. It takes you to the same website, just a different page. And you can see all the things I do, all of my work, if you go to PamDwyer.com.
Okay. And I will put all of these links in the show notes. I'll make it easy. What a joy, Pam. Great to meet you. Thank you so much for your time, your message. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Joe. I hope we stay connected.
Absolutely.
Thanks for giving me a voice today.
Yes, it's been wonderful. It's been